Welcome to Edu Aspirants, our YouTube channel for competitive exams. This is the fifth video in the series of videos on polity. I hope you have been viewing and revising the previous videos on polity, and hopefully this would be the final video on the chapter of polity in India, that is Bharat. Let us begin with the state machinery. The system of government in states closely resembles that of the union, that is the country. The state executive consists of the governor and council of ministers with chief minister as its head. The governor of a state is appointed by the president for a period of 5 years. He should be an Indian citizen above 35 years of age. The executive power of the state is vested in the governor of that state. However, the Council of Ministers with the Chief Minister as head aids and advises the governor to perform his functions. In respect of Nagaland, the governor has special responsibility under Article 371A of the Constitution. It is with respect to law and order in the state, despite heeding the advice of the Chief Minister. Similarly, in respect of Arunachal Pradesh, the governor has special responsibility under Article 371H of the Constitution with respect to law and order. However, these provisions are temporary, and if the President of India, on receipt of a report from governor or otherwise, is satisfied that it is no longer necessary for the governor to have special responsibility, he may be relieved of these responsibilities by the President of India. The sixth schedule of the Constitution, Para 20, which applies to tribal areas of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, gives discretionary powers to the governor in matters relating to sharing of royalties between district councils and state governments. And in Mizoram and Tripura, in almost all their functions except approving regulations for levy of taxes and money lending by non-tribals by the district councils, and this provision is there since December 1998. In Sikkim, the governor has been given special responsibility for peace and social and economic advancement of different sections of the population of Sikkim. Chief Minister of a state is appointed by the governor, who also appoints other ministers on the advice of the Chief Minister. The Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the Legislative Assembly of the state, and members of Legislative Assembly, we all know, are elected by the people of that state. Hence, we can say that the power actually rests in the people of the state. For every state, there is a legislature which consists of the governor and one house, that is the Legislative Assembly, or two houses, that is the Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council, as the case may be. In Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Telangana and Uttar Pradesh, there are two houses, the Legislative Council or the upper house and the Legislative Assembly or the lower house. In the remaining states, there is only one house known as the Legislative Assembly. The Parliament of India may by law provide for abolition of an existing legislative council or for creation of one where it does not exist, provided a proposal is supported by a resolution of the Legislative Assembly of the state concerned. The Legislative Council or Vidhan Parishad of a state comprises not more than one-third of total number of members in the Legislative Assembly of the state and in no case less than 40 members. About one-third of members of the Legislative Council are elected by members of the Legislative Assembly from amongst persons who are not its members. One-third by electorates consisting of members of municipalities, district boards and other local authorities in the state. 1/12 by electorate consisting of persons who have been for at least 3 years engaged in teaching in educational institutions within the state, not lower in standard than secondary school. A further 1/12 by registered graduates of more than 3 years standing. Remaining members are nominated by the governor from among those who have distinguished themselves in literature, science, art, cooperative movement and social service in the state. The legislative councils are not subject to dissolution, but one-third of their members retire every second year. It is the same as for the Rajya Sabha in the Union. Let us know a little about our legislative assemblies. Each state has a legislative assembly, or Vidhan Sabha as it is called, consisting of not more than 500 and not less than 60 members, chosen by direct election from territorial constituencies in the state. Legislative Assembly of Sikkim has 32 members, wide Article 371F of the Constitution, which is an exception to the norm. Term of an assembly is 5 years unless it is dissolved earlier. The state legislature has exclusive powers over subjects enumerated in list 2 of the 7th schedule of the Constitution and concurrent powers over those enumerated in list 3. A legislative assembly alone has power to originate money bills. Legislative Council can make only recommendations in respect of changes it considers necessary within a period of 14 days of the receipt of money bills from the Assembly. The Assembly can accept or reject these recommendations. This is the same as the money bills subject to the power of Lok Sabha over the Rajya Sabha. The governor of a state may reserve any bill for the consideration of the president. Bills seeking to impose restrictions on interstate trade can be introduced in a state legislature only after prior sanction of the President of India. The Union territories are administered by the President through an administrator appointed by him. Administrators of Jammu Kashmir, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Delhi and Puducherry are designated as lieutenant governors, and of the remaining Ladakh, Chandigarh, Lakshadweep, Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli are designated as administrators. The National Capital Territory of Delhi, as also the Union Territory of Puducherry, have a legislative assembly and a council of ministers headed by a chief minister. Local government, that is the municipalities. Municipal bodies have a long history in India. The first such municipal corporation was set up in the former presidency town of Madras in 1688 and later in Bombay and Kolkata in 1726. The Directive Principles of State Policy refer to the subject of local self-governments as a responsibility of the states. The Parliament enacted the Constitution 74th Amendment Act 1992, known as the Nagarpalika Act, relating to municipalities in 1992 to provide for a common framework for urban local bodies which came into effect in 1993. The Constitution 74th Amendment Act 1992 thus added a new part 9A relating to the municipalities to provide for, among other things, constitution of three types of municipalities: Nagar Panchayats for areas in transition from a rural area to urban area, municipal councils for smaller urban areas, and municipal corporation for large urban areas. All states and union territories set up their state election commissions and finance commissions. Article 40 of the Constitution, which enshrines the directive principles of state policy, lays down that the state shall take steps to organize village panchayats and endow them with such powers and authority as may be necessary to enable them to function as units of self-government. A new Part 9 relating to the panchayats was inserted in the Constitution to provide for, among other things, Gram Sabha in a village or group of villages, constitution of panchayats at village and at other levels by direct elections. A word about the Election Commission of India. The Election Commission of India, the ECI, was constituted in 1950 with its headquarters at New Delhi. It is a permanent, independent constitutional body with the responsibility for superintendence, direction and control of the process of conduct of elections to Parliament and to legislatures of the states and the union territories, and also elections to the offices of President and Vice President under the Constitution. Elections are conducted according to the constitutional provisions supplemented by laws made by Parliament. The major laws are given in the Presidential and Vice Presidential Elections Act 1952, the Representation of the People Act 1950, and the Representation of the People Act 1951. At the state level, subject to overall control of the Commission, elections are conducted by the Chief Electoral Officer of the respective states, who is appointed by the Commission by selection from amongst senior civil servants of the state governments. During the last 72 years, the Commission has conducted 17 general elections to the Lok Sabha and around 400 general elections to various state legislative assemblies, thus facilitating peaceful, orderly and democratic transfer of power. The Election Commission of India launched the India International Institute of Democracy and Election Management IIIDEM in New Delhi. It is an advanced resource center of learning, research, training and extension for electoral democracy and election management. This brings us to the end of the 5-video series on India's polity. Keep revising. The next lesson shall be uploaded soon. Subscribe, press the bell icon, like and share, and all the very best for your competitive exams.